Welcome to the Strongman Coaches channel, featuring weekly episodes with industry titans who can help coaches and athletes improve in strongman. I'm your host, Heidi Campo. Joining us today is Brian Galbreath, and we are going to be talking about owning a strongman gym. So please remember to like and comment so we can get some anabolic dialogue going on this page. Brian, welcome. Let's kick things off with a few easy questions. Could you just tell everyone who you are, how long you've been involved in the sport, and what gives you a unique or helpful perspective?
My name is Brian Galbreath. I retired out of the Marine Corps in May of 2018, possibly about December of 2018 is when we came across the gym. It was just right time, right place. Never had a dream of owning a gym, but like I said, right time, right place, and we kind of went from there. We opened the gym December of 2018, and back in spring of 2020 was the first members that we had that were in the Strongman community, which opened our eyes. We eventually started buying some implements here and there as we could afford it. Moving along, summer of 2022 was our first time we took athletes to a nationals. It was USS Nationals. We had 3 athletes there. That fall, my wife and I went to OSG as volunteers. And then the following summer, July of 2023, we put on the Mid-Atlantic regionals for OSG here in our hometown here. And then here we are today.
That's amazing. And it really kind of just shows how this sport is still in its infancy because you got into it. So you have an athletic background. I mean, the Marines are no joke. But you did get into strongman and owning your gym relatively recently, but you still have been able to get into such a high position in the sport where you're doing so much for all the athletes. And that's just amazing to me. So how did you kind of first get introduced to it as a gym owner? And why did you initially decide to invest in the equipment? Because it is not cheap and it takes up a lot of space sometimes.
It does. It is a big footprint. We have, like I said, I had a couple members that were already competing in it. They opened my eyes the first time I went to support them. I made a notion that anytime I have members of the gym here that compete, whether it's powerlifting, strongman, what have you, that I would always attend to show our support from the gym. And when I went to that strongman competition, it was just a small town USA, local show, but the audience, the people you're competing against, they're your biggest supporter, and it really drew me in to see that when someone, is out there competing and their opponent, takes their belt off to allow them to borrow it. Seeing that in strongman, you won't rarely see that in other sports. Your main component, biggest supporter.
Yeah. And that's one reason why I fell in love with the sport as well. It's such a cool community. So if other people are interested in kind of starting to get some strongman implements in their gym, what would you say are some good initial investments?
A good initial investments is always going to be the yoke. You're going to see a yoke and more than likely a log, whether it be your 12-inch or your 10-inch in diameters. Most of your local shows, that's what you're going to see. As you start, promoters that put on the shows that are little even kegs and throwing kegs. Your kegs, are going to range in different weights. If you're around any bars that, get them dented or holes in them, those are your cheapest buys. Usually I can find them for about $50. And then eventually you'll want to buy a loadable keg. Mike Bartos with the Mike Bartos Power Center makes some good ones. No promotional there, but that's just who we have our loadable keg from.
That's cool. So you think the yoke is the first thing they should get and then definitely a log. Do y'all also have stones?
Yes, we have actually got a good collection of stones.
Yeah.
All the way from, I think our smallest is a 40-pounder, and they go all the way up to, I believe my biggest is in the high 3s.
Yeah, that's heavy. So here's an interesting thing that I think a lot of gym owners are interested in getting stones in their gym, but I think that a few of the big problems is how many stones do you get? What weights do you do? And I think that depends on the level of athletes you have. Because if you don't
Yes,
have athletes who can lift a 400-pound stone, you don't need a 400-pound stone unless you're trying to sort of
exactly.
advertise to those athletes or attract them. Also, I don't think that there's a major use for like a 35-pound stone. You're not going to really
No.
see it. It's fun for the kids or the teens sometimes, but you can figure other things out. So I want to know like what you think are kind of like the best spread of stones to start with. And then I have two more questions. The other one is, do you recommend getting platforms or just having them train stone over bar? And then my last stone related question, and this is probably the most important one, is as a gym owner, how do you manage tacky or no tacky with stones in the gym? If you even have your stones inside the gym, you might have them
Yeah.
outside. I don't know.
Okay, so back up. What was that first question again? Sorry, I went
First
down a
one,
rabbit hole in my head.
you're like tacky. Oh, you're just seeing tacky
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah. So the first one was like, what do you think's a good spread of stones to start
Oh,
with?
yeah. So the first stone we got, I bought 2 stones from a gentleman that was moving. And that's usually how most people will come across their stones, because when people move, they don't want to carry all that extra weight, in delivery and moving companies. But anyway, it was a 140-pound stone, but it was made with a 175-pound mold. So it was the same size, but lighter. And that right there, I definitely agree with. It helps in training, not so much getting the smaller stone, having the size, but lighter.
Yep.
That way you can get used to the girth, but practice at a lighter weight.
And how did he
But the
make
one,
that? Did he put like a ball inside when he was casting it?
so he did it by styrofoam ball you can get from like Michael's or any of them craft places, and basically strung it so that it stayed dead center. Because
Perfect.
you take a normal styrofoam ball and try and force it into concrete, when it's wet, it's just going to float to the top.
Yeah.
You want it to stay centered as much as possible, but at the same time, you don't want that styrofoam ball too big, because then it messes with the integrity of the stone. That if
Especially in North Carolina where you're at, where it gets cold.
Yes, cold and cold and hot.
Yep.
The
That's a
past couple of
recipe to
days we.
crack them.
So second question, tacky. Yes, we have ours indoors. As far as that goes, it's in our back room, right now. But we've started redoing the floor. I would definitely say stall mats and rolls of mats is what we do when we bring the stones into the main room here for over bar. I have a mat that we roll out. They roll the stones on the mat. I try to keep it. I mean, there's been times where I've walked down the center aisleway and there's been, my shoes stuck, and I, wanted to curse, my heavy crew that deals with all that. But, it is what it is. There's certain things that happen, whether something breaks, as long as it wasn't, malicious or criminal, you just suck it up.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's just the reality of having stones. It's like you're gonna get tacky places,
yeah,
and athletes, I think athletes, for the most part, they do their best trying to not track it in the bathrooms or anything.
yeah.
Do you have like a tacky cleanup station for your
So that
athletes?
goes right out the back door. Have Goo Gone. I've even used Spray Pam and WD-40. Anything that's oil based is going to get the tacky off your body, hands, and whatnot. Every now and then I'll buy like a case of tape, and the athletes will wrap their forearms and then put tacky on, and they can just peel the tape off and the tacky goes with it. But no,
Mhm.
they'll spray their hands and arms down with the oil based remover. They'll go right out the back door. There's a hose with a spigot back there that they rinse off, and then they can come back in and use our indoor sinks.
Go outside, you animals.
Yep, yep, yep. And then your other question of going, whether it be over bar or platforms, it's really going to depend on the footprint that you have the ability for space. One of the, whether it be Rogue or Titan, I can't remember which, but one of them makes a platform that you can put onto your yoke. So you can make it high or low to whatever size you need it or whatever height you need it to be. But it does that one
Mhm.
device doing, the series of platforms.
Now, I've seen the ones, are you talking about like the ones, because I've seen them attached to like the rack, the squat rack. Are you saying that there's like a separate one that attaches to your yoke, or is it like the same
Yes,
ones? It's the
it's
squat
it's
rack one.
just like the crossbar. It goes on the yoke just like the crossbar, but
Oh,
it gives a whole tabletop with a ledge around the 3 sides so that the stone can't roll over, and then it gives a hole in the middle for the stone to catch on.
Yeah, and that's such a great strategy. So when I had my gym, we had homemade platforms with lumber and we built
Hmm.
ours right before COVID when you could still buy lumber. And we had to do the same thing as the holes in the center and then we did stall mats on top. And then the thing is if you're making them at home and you have those beams across here, you absolutely have to have some kind of metal or thick lumber bar going this way. Otherwise, it's just going to crack and fold because you have these guys, because it's like they're not just setting them up.
No, no, they're slamming them on there. Yeah.
So that kind of makes me think about some of the other questions that I think gym owners are really aware of. Athletes and coaches may not be as aware of, but gym owners are painfully aware of is sort of saving your equipment, saving your walls, saving your floors. What are some of your recommendations for maybe even CrossFit gym owners out there and people who
Yes.
have gyms that are trying to expand into this space? How can they protect their investments from the inevitable? It's, and I want to say inevitable because it's like, it's not the athletes being rude. This is going to happen with when you're moving this much weight at the velocity that they do, damage happens.
Yes. And on that, also, I mean, you've got your, I won't say professional, but novice athletes that have been in the community for a while. And then you got your newbie that, just joins the gym and he's like, oh, what's this? Oh, let me, I saw, Steve over there lifting it like this. I'm going to lift it and, oh, I just broke something. That's going to happen. People that don't know how to lift. So currently how ours set up, it's kind of free reign on all the equipment. I don't have anything locked up like some of your bigger gyms where they have everything's behind a cage or something, with the strongman stuff. I do tell my members with the strongman equipment, if you don't know how, please ask, because I have female and male athletes that train here and they don't want those implements broken.
Yeah.
But
Do
as far as
you
damage, when it comes to damage to the gym, whether it's, some places, if they're small or smaller, that, maybe they want to put up reinforced walling, on the sides. Whereas we don't have reinforced. Ours is actually, it's a metal fat building with insulation. If somebody leans something on the wall, it tears the
it's
insulation
going
and
right through it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it goes right through it. In some areas, it's been reinforced with mirrors. Like if you want to look right there, that's one of our deadlift platforms with mirrors.
And that's a more expensive wall to break.
Yes.
It's like, please don't even look at the beers. Yeah, no, it's funny. When I had my gym, I had a guy once. He did the stone to platform and was like so excited. I wasn't even here for this. And the stone, we had a cinder block wall. So I think everybody in their head assumes cinder block. That's pretty solid. But they don't realize that cinder block has those hollow segments. It's not concrete all the way
Reinforced.
through. Yeah. And so he busted a hole in the wall. And I came in the next day. I was like, there's a hole in the wall. Who did this? And they're like, oh, so and so got a PR. I'm like, okay, that's great that he got a PR, but there is a hole in the wall. Why didn't anyone tell me? So these are some,
Right?
I think these are just some of the realities that gym owners need to kind of recognize that sometimes these little mishaps happen. And it sounds like you have a system in place to try and prevent that. I guess not to bring up a negative, but this is something that gym owners will deal with
Yes.
is when
Yeah.
stuff does get damaged, how do you go about handling that? Because I've definitely seen coaches do it maybe not the right way, where they post it on social media and they shame everyone and they say things like, I'm going to check the cameras at noon. Who's going to fess up? And it's like, that's a little bit of a toxic culture type thing.
That is. So we've had probably I've had a couple incidences here. One, I think the first one was one of the bars, but I will say it was not major brand. It was one of the off cheaper main brands out there that I'm not going to reveal the name, but it, a fraction of the cost kind of thing. People just, they put too much weight. And that bar, that company, it's really not designed to be commercial gym. It's really to be a garage gym, one user kind of thing.
Yeah.
Another incident I had, because in our back room, I have what I call a shrine. It's basically a metal structure for a rope climb with some pull-up bars and dip rings. And at the time, we didn't have a yoke outside for throwing of sandbags. So they were, attempting to use that to throw over. Well, the top of that shrine is like, what, 2 feet from the ceiling of my roof? which
Hmm.
again has insulation. So they basically broke some of the insulation and
Gotcha.
didn't fess up for a day or two. I was initially, butthurt, mad, whatever. The guy came in and apologized and attempted to fix the insulation. So all is wearing, love and
Yeah.
war.
Yeah. And that's, it sounds like really the best answer for gym owners is to just have a culture of communication in your gym and be
Yes.
approachable. It's just like, it's like dating or marriage. It's like if you make a mistake, you need to have that rapport already with people where it's like they feel comfortable talking to you and they know you're not going to blow up. And if you
Yeah.
are a gym owner who is easily triggered and maybe you don't have the financial means for this equipment, I would maybe advise
Then you need to
holding
stay away
off.
from powerlifting, anything that's going to require sport. Because, like with powerlifting, you're going to have chalk. The first time I started getting people asking for chalk in here, I was like, okay, maybe. And then it was just like, go into the bucket and,
It's
and
everywhere.
it's everywhere. So,
And the thing that a lot of people don't think about is the cleaning that's associated with that because so it's like we've all been in gyms that are absolutely disgusting. It's like you better have a full body afterwards because there's definitely some diseases in there. And it's like those gyms are kind of fun and gritty and whatnot, but it's like I still like being able to get on the ground and do mobility without coming up feeling like I just rolled in mud. And then you
right.
also have gyms that are like really pristine. Like I'm thinking like athletic performance centers. And it's like you're so scared to do chalk or anything that you kind of are like, you just too rigid all the time. So it's like, it's kind of finding that balance of you still want it to be clean enough that people feel like it's a welcoming space, especially if you're trying to invite more newer athletes or women. I think just generally speaking, this is a wide stereotype. They're going to be a little bit more comfortable in a cleaner space, but
Mm-hmm.
also keeping it so it's practical and functional. And athletes can, get the chalk, clap their hands without thinking too much about, oh, do I have to do this gently without making a mess?
So, like, I've got 5 gallon buckets that from, one of the Home Depot or Lowe's and, you know, get them with the top and then just cut a hole in the top. That way it's like they put their hands in here. They, can do that inside the bucket and then pull their hands out and use it. And I'll do some of my members get a little crazy with it. Yeah. Yeah. But again, it's as long as it's not extremely malicious.
Yeah, well, we did that even cheaper. We had t-shirts over our Home Depot buckets. So they had their hands go through the neck of the t-shirt, and that was how we were able to
Ah,
kind of control the chalk.
yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely a strategy. Another question that kind of came to mind is when you got your setup for the sandbag over bar, what did you do? Did you DIY it? Did you buy something? How much of an investment did you put into it? And would you recommend that for other new gym owners?
So DIY so none of mine was really DIY. It was actually an actual yoke that I purchased. And then with the sandbags, I bought extras so that again I could make them lighter, backfilling it with rubber or wood pellets. Before I knew rubber was the thing, I was using wood pellets from like your barbecue grill type
Oh,
stuff.
wow. I bet they smell great.
Yep. And it's just you got to play with it on the scale to make sure you fill it so it's not too floppy, but at the same time reaching your desired weight for training purposes.
Yeah.
Because at the
What a
time, I had girls and guys training. So, obviously some of the girls are going to be not as strong as, some ginormous dude. So,
or even your teens. There's a lot more teens getting into it now.
yes,
But what about your like the actual over the bar
the
portion of
throw.
it? Because
Oh,
you
so
had the
yes, that
yoke. Yeah.
So what I purchased, and that is, sorry, I confused what you were saying as
It's
far as
okay.
overbar or the high
It's
overbar.
it's a
Um,
strong man, not smart man sometimes.
yep. I actually have that sticker in my lobby.
It's my
So the
favorite
DIY for
saying.
that, I believe it was a 3-inch pipe. And what I did is I bought two 10-inch sections and then a shorter section. I think I measured it out to be about 5 feet wide. Took the 3-inch pipes so that way they go over the vertical,
Hmm.
and then 2 elbows for the top, and then just glued them, with regular
Just like PVC
PVC pipe.
pipe.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that setup look like? Do you just tilt the yoke over and then place the PVC
So
pipe in? And
yes, but I left the crossbar on there. That way you raise it from the crossbar. So if the crossbar goes all the way down, actually it at the bottom of the yoke, if anyone, that owns a yoke can tell you that the crossbar, goes down to about not quite a foot off the ground. So that's height of 1 foot plus the 10-foot pipe to the top of, the horizontal bar. You can measure that out to be 11 feet. So raise.
excellent. Yeah, I've even seen Highland Game guys, they have an advanced pulley system that they've created too, so they can go even higher. Because Highland Games, they can throw the crap out of those things. And so they
Yep.
have some kind of like a pulley system so you can adjust it from the ground for each athlete. And I've seen things like that too. And those aren't super hard. And I will see if I can find some tutorials online, maybe of how to do that and maybe post it in the comments of this video. Or if you have a tutorial yourself, I can share that with
I don't have a
everyone who's
tutorial.
watching
I
this.
can take the iPad out and look at, the yoke that we have set up.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. Just sharing anything with people who are watching this. So when you got into strongman, I bet you did not have any idea what you were getting into. So going
No, not at
from
all.
I'm a Marine, now I'm just opening up a gym to now I'm running OSG Nationals. What was that kind of like?
OSG regionals.
Regionals. My bad. OSG regionals.
I don't
What was
need Lynn
that?
mad at me.
What was that, I guess, that learning curve? Were there any lessons that you learned that you could share with other people who are trying to get into this position and save them from making some of the mistakes you did?
Just learning to roll with it. You can't, be dead set in a certain mindset. Like we spoke earlier about, accidents are going to happen, things are going to break. You got to understand that, you're going to learn something new every day. Even your top performers in strongman are learning something new every day, and nobody knows everything.
Absolutely.
Be humble, and whereas my passion is seeing the beginning of a new member to where they are, a year from now, reaching their goals. That's my reward. That's truly what I look for, when I'm training people, my personal training clients. There's some way, that's my reward.
Fish in a sport. If you're saying stupid things, it's going to get around fast. So it is important to keep that humility. I'm sure a lot of gym owners are curious how you organize your maybe strongman memberships or passes because a lot of people, because you're in a little bit more of a rural setting. So a lot of people, I'm sure, only come in for Saturdays, or maybe they only come in for drop ins before competitions. Do you have some kind of like a punch pass, or do you let people do a membership for Saturdays only, or is everybody on kind of the same monthly type thing?
Right now, we have no segregation of types of memberships as far as strongman or regular gym. Like I mentioned before, none of our strongman equipment is behind a cage, and only unlocked for certain people or days of the week. It's kind of a free for all in there. Do we have week passes? Yes, we have week passes. I get people that contact me and, like to come here every summer, when they vacay out here on Emerald Isle, in the Crystal Coast. That's what they call the coast of North Carolina, Crystal Coast, with the beaches
Oh,
and the water and whatnot. But anyway, so yeah, we do week passes. They keep the key fob. The key fob will only work for a certain amount of days. When they come back into town, or previous to them coming back in town, they'll contact me again, say, here's my credit card or bank card, and charge it for a week or 2 weeks or what have you.
yeah.
That's worked good for us.
And I think it is important to have a system so that you're not just like hunting people down for cash payments all the time, unless you do have some kind of like a member, like more of a club type setting. And it's not a big commercial gym. Because I've seen that work in the club setting where they're doing some kind of cash only thing because it's like nobody wants to pay more taxes. Let's be
So
honest.
our front door is locked and it's a key fob entry. I do have a ring doorbell that comes to my phone, and I'm here pretty much, 6 days a week. So, being a small business owner, you practically live at your business.
Yep. It's true.
I know you know that, but for the viewers,
Gym owner, you're going to be space from your gym while also staying hands on because obviously you're doing a lot with your business and you have a lot of members that are doing amazing things, but you still want to maintain your sanity.
I haven't really cracked that nut yet. Um, you know, in the beginning, my wife Candace, was getting on to me, you're doing too much time in the gym. I was like, yeah, you're right. I was getting overwhelmed and just living at the gym basically. And every time I turned around, someone would contact me, hey, it's Sunday. And normally I'm not here on Sundays. I'd get an email, hey, I'd like to look at your gym. And I was like, okay, I can be there in 20 minutes, or,
Yeah.
whatever. And that right there was drawing on me and, pulling a lot of energy away from me to be able to do that constantly until finally, you got to put your foot down and say, okay, Sundays and Mondays, I'm not going to be at the gym.
Yeah.
Those are my days off.
Mhm.
Sunday being a weekend, Monday being a day of the week in case I got to do bank runs or anything personally, medical, dental.
Get your beard or your mustache curated more.
Yeah.
World's strongest mustache right there. So you host a lot of competitions at your gym?
We have physically hosted one. We did a local comp for Strongman about 2 summers ago. And it was a pretty good success. For the size of the area in here, we had probably too many people legally. So I'll just leave it at that.
I won't tell a fire marshal.
Yeah. So we had a lot of people in here. We had to have the doors open for airflow because it was the middle of the summer and it was just, it was hot. And the
Yeah.
amount of people and the athletes, running 2 lanes on the side there.
Is that something
But
that you would recommend for gym owners is to host competitions in their gym? Or would you recommend for gym owners to try and host their competitions at a venue and maybe just do small in-gym type things at their facility?
So it's really going to depend on footprint. So like, unfortunately, where I'm physically at, we're on septic tank. So with that being said, having 200 people and, let's say if we had 200 people in the gym at one time, that's a lot on a septic tank, whereas if it was just regular sewer, probably wouldn't be a problem.
Mhm.
Also, it's a matter of how much space, is available in your gym because you got to think, how many athletes are you going to have? If you think there's going to be 50 athletes, well, now you got to start, multiplying. For every athlete, they're going to bring it at a minimum 2 people. Now, granted, on average, there's going to be an athlete that probably comes by themselves. But if you take every athlete brings 2 people, that's already 150 people. Because you got 50 athletes. Now you got 100. Then on top of that, you've got to have volunteers. How many volunteers are you going to have, helping you to put on the show? Because anyone in the strongman community will tell you volunteers is what makes your show, not promoting.
100%. So you've
And that's with
done
any.
so you've done it all. You've competed, you've coached, you have a gym.
I have not competed.
You've not competed. Okay, but you do coach and you have the gym and you've promoted, you've run the shows. But as far as coaching, what would you say has been one of your, I don't even want to say coaching. What's coaching, gym ownership, promotion? I want to say just all of it. What has been one of your favorite strongman memories in the sport?
It would have to be the second competition that I went to, which is where I saw, the opponents of the athlete that we were supporting, cheering them on. That was probably, the best thing I've ever seen, because normally it's I or me, I'm better than you or you're better than me. No, mostly in the strongman community, it's not really like that. Yes, by all means, they want to, win. They want to beat the other person. But at the end of the day, like you said, we're all friends. We know people. We're going to see each other again. It really opened my eyes. The first nationals I went to, when one of our athletes was back behind where I wasn't allowed to go, it was only athletes. And someone asked him, oh, you're from All America. This gentleman that was talking to him was like from way out Midwest somewhere. I'm a small town gym, in the East Coast of North Carolina, and someone out there already knows who we are. That made my head go. But
Strongman really is it's like a big, fun, extended family. It's like we're a little bit crazier than probably your biological family, but we really are like a big extended family. Brian, thank you so much for coming on this week and sharing your insights with
My
us.
pleasure.
I'm sure that there's a lot of gym owners out there that found this to be very valuable. And if they
I hope
do
so.
have further questions for you, is there a place where they can reach out and get more information?
They can reach out. So all of our social media and emails are all the same. It's All American Fitness, the number 24HR at, whether it be at TikTok, we're on Instagram and Gmail.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and looking forward to having you again in the future.
All right. Thank you.